Here we are. Welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I'm your host, Ben Cross, and we are with Gary Stack of Maps Conerly. Here, Gary and I were just reminiscing about the good old days when you drive around with an atlas in your car, and somebody'd have to legitimately stay awake the whole time and not be on their iPad or sleeping, and tell you when you missed your exit or something like that, and you draw a route, and this tattered thing would be the only thing between you and running out of gas somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Still have the atlas. It's downstairs. I should have brought it, my friend. Still have the atlas.
Show the kids. Gather around, kids, and let's tell you about the big book of places. We would also print out before you went anywhere, you'd have to take 5 minutes and print out the map on what do you say, MapQuest?
MapQuest. Go to mapquest.com, print any map, put in your starting point, your destination. It'd give you a map. I'd used that when I went on the road, and I'm feeling really old right now.
Hit that like button if you've ever printed a map. If you've ever printed a map, hit that like button. You know who you are. You're at home here. This is the Map Hour. Tim Quirk, hello, Ben and Gary. # Western NY. Used to have the good old Thomas
Guide. Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
What is that?
Kids these days.
Patricia, hi Ben, long time. See you soon, hopefully. Yes, Patricia. Patricia, is this a thing in Brazil? You drive around with an atlas in your car? Or did you call it something else? I want to know. We've got South America in the house. This is great. Hit that like button. Get in the comments. I want to know who you are, where you are, and when the last time you printed out a map was. Lynn Carbo, and how about traveling with the AAA triptychs? Oh yes.
So I'm gonna bring this to our topic. So I mean, could any of our parents have imagined a day when, okay, so I have fond memories of my grandfather, and if he were here, he would look at me and go, "Wait a minute, you wake up, you get ready for work, you make coffee, and you walk upstairs to your office."
You walk uphill both ways. Yes, Granddad, I walk uphill both ways.
Uphill
in the
both
air
ways.
Conditioning
To my office, yes, and work from home. And he would look at me like, how can that possibly be? But that's where we are. And it does relate to working from home, right?
Yes. And nobody needs to print a map out to get upstairs unless it's been a particularly rough night. So we are going to be talking about working from home, working from anywhere. Is it really a thing? Is it possible? Is it the future? Am I going to be Glomo from Bali in 6 months? Let me know, Gary, if I'm honest something there. I personally think that it's all a bunch of hootenanny and it's not going to last. But Gary and I are going to argue this point. I want to hear from you out there. Get in the comments here. Tom Bruin checking in from Ennio and sunny Denver, Colorado. Tom, great to see you. Jana Shazanaski. Team Glomo, happy Thursday, Gary and Ben. What's up? South America is here strong right now. We got Brazil in the house. Sean Luchins folding or unfolding a map while driving. Yes, there was distracted driving. How about that? Disciplining your children, folding maps, right? I mean, working the fuzz buster on the dashboard. I mean, all these things that before we had waves that would tell us where the police were. But Patricia printed many a map in my previous life. I like how previous is in quotes there. Patricia, what did you used to do? I want to know about this previous life. Stephen John, look at Stephen John, the well-read Stephen John. Triptychs, Thomas Guide, MapQuest. Stephen, yes. Love it. Gabriel, hi, Ben and Gary, tuning in from Arizona. Looking forward. Alan Brown from ARC's Virginia office. Yes, we use paper maps for sure. Sandra Clary, Thomas Guide. What? I don't know what the Thomas Guide was. Gary, what is the Thomas Guide?
I also do not know what the Thomas Guide is. I have downstairs the AAA Atlas that it curled up into a ball, and you could fit it in your the little pocket in your door. It's exactly where it sat as I went down the road.
Phillies in the house.
Not that I looked at it. Well,
2006 was the last time I printed out a map or MapQuest directions because I had gotten a Garmin. Yes, a separate device to tell us where to go. That wasn't built into our dashboard, or even better, in our pocket. Awesome. A lot of printed maps maybe 15 years ago. Jamie checking in. What's up? William Wiggins. Gary, my brother, checking in from Cincy.
Too long, William. Too long, my friend. Hope you're well.
Yes, William You know what? William repping the Cowboys. William, who are we taking in the draft? I'd love to know. But Tricia, we love you, Ben. That's why. Awesome. Previous before GPS and ways for sure. Seriously, you don't know the Thomas guide? No, Steven. And I didn't have a green book either, Steven. Okay. There's a lot of things I don't know about. I'm just a crazy talk show host. But let's talk instead. Let's look at this. Tom on the dash, 100%. Let's talk a little bit about this work from home. Is work from home work from anywhere? Listen, Gary, here's the deal, man. I didn't quit my job to just work from home. I want to work from anywhere, right? I mean, people are saying that, all the time they want to work from anywhere. I want to work from anywhere, but I don't know if it's possible because all my Relo friends who are way smarter than me about issues of tax and other things say that that there's things I need to be considering. What are your thoughts on this trend, Gary? And I'm going to probably disagree with whatever you say. I'm just warning you right now.
Well, I think that in my professional career, I've never seen a time when employees are as empowered as they are right now. I think we are in a perfect storm of very low unemployment, a pandemic, and now, so HRO Today every year polls HR leaders and asks them, what is your number one concern for this year? And routinely every year, the answer was the same: recruitment, recruitment, recruitment until 2022. And now by far the new word is retention, retention, retention. So left and right every single day, I'm having HR leaders say, employees are coming to us and saying, if I can work from home, why can't I work from, and then now enter wherever it is they want to move. And employers are faced with a choice. If we tell them no, they might walk.
Yeah, they might go anyway. Like, listen, I was just being courteous and telling you I was thinking about doing this and hoping you'd say yes. But I mean, it sounds like you did exactly what I thought you were going to do and not support me. I'm going anyway, and I'll find a job in this incredibly lucrative talent market right now.
Correct. Correct. And even shopping for jobs is a way to try and reinforce my position here, or negotiate for a better salary. All of that is happening. But back on point, if you tell them no, you face the fear of losing that upskilled employee. And so every instance I've run into, and this is happening routinely, the employers are saying yes. And usually it involves, I'm just moving a few states away. I want to move to Denver. I want to move to Florida. I want to move to Southern California. But I have seen at least 3 instances of I want to move overseas. And now that's, I know that you were joking, but I had an HR leader just last month say we had an employee who informed us that he was moving to Singapore. And it wasn't even like that he was asking. He was telling. He was telling. Okay. And they did not have an office and a presence in Singapore. So now we're talking about, is the company willing to spend the amount of money to hire a PEO and do a joint employment contract to then be able to employ him in Singapore and deal with payroll in Singapore? And I'll go ahead and finish the story. The answer was yes, that they did.
They were.
They were.
How did that increase I wonder how that increased their cost of labor. Like, what was the cost? Was it a 10% increase in cost? Was it 20%? Was it offset by other tax savings here? I mean, I'm really curious about the calculus.
And my answer is, I don't have an answer for you on that because I didn't get into the fine details on, I guess I'll also say that I kind of picked my job off the floor too, because I was waiting for the answer to be no, but the answer was yes.
Right.
But I didn't press them on the how much. But suffice it to say that there is a calculation on who is the individual, their contribution to the company, their knowledge within the company, and then a calculation of, are we willing to lose this employee versus the cost of, and domestically it's relatively easy, right? We just have to talk about withholding in that state, filings in that state, possibly some sales tax ramifications if they create a nexus in that state. Fairly easy to do. No, we're going to Costa Rica, we're going to the Bahamas, we're going to Bermuda. All 3 of those are real recently. Okay.
Yeah. I want to talk. You know what? I want to get some input here. If you're watching this right now, and I see a ton of people watching this right now, hit that like button right now. Also, I want to know if you know somebody that works at an employer of record, an EOR or a PEO or a whatever else they're called, I want you to tag them in the comments. Tag them because I want them to know we're talking about this right now. And I want to see if maybe they want to kind of chime in here with some of the stuff they're seeing right now. Because if I can convince my wife like Costa Rica or Panama is viable, I mean, maybe, right? I mean, maybe, I don't know. Patricia is saying digital nomad work permits, but you do have to be aware of taxes depending on the country or countries
and payroll
and
and
payroll.
banking
Yeah.
and all the above, which again, now we're outside of my area of expertise. Now we're talking about speaking with, global tech network, with speaking with GTN, getting their advice on what the tax difference might be between Mexico and the United States, or Peru and the United States.
Peru, dropping that Peru knowledge. Sweet potatoes, don't do it. Yeah, but no. So I mean, this is really fascinating here. I think that this is really challenging, right? Like, I think that companies are going to have a preference of having people work in the metro that they are, located, having them in the office as much as possible. They just don't have the leverage
Thank you.
right now
I don't disagree. Again, back
to
to the
flex.
right now, back to the perfect storm that we are in. Again, I've never seen employees with the leverage they have today, and many of them every day more and more are realizing what they can do with that leverage, and that includes now. I mean, there are recent studies on this. 54% of people polled by Pew said that if they could work from home, if it continues, they would look to relocate. 75% said that they would relocate if work from home became permanent. So just based upon data we're seeing, and then also kind of real life inquiries that we're getting, it's happening. The question now comes back to, what does a company do? And I have an opinion, but I'll let you maybe say what you think a company should do.
I think that I'm going to speak firsthand experience. My company is growing, super blessed. We've got someone in New Jersey, we've got someone in New Orleans, and we've got someone in Rio de Janeiro.
Okay.
And if the IRS is listening, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But I think that I would see us wanting to hire people regardless of where they sit. I mean, I would give a preference to Dallas because that's where I am. And I would love to one day have an office, because that's what CEOs dream of, have an office where they can go around and tell people what to do and then make them show up to happy hours, even though they don't want to be there. But I also realize, like, hey, I'm probably a little out of touch like that. And so we're looking to hire someone right now, and we're looking all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I even thought, and this is, you want to hear something really crazy, Gary? This is how inside out my brain is on this. We have an intern right now. She's going full time with us on June 1st. And I wanted her, like, secretly, like, wanted her to move to Dallas. So like once she went full time, so we could like start to kind of create this little, like, hive thing going on. But she's moving to Washington, DC to live with her friend, right? Because her friend's up there. I'm like, okay, cool. Opposite of what I wanted, but that's fine. And then when she's moving in June, I'm like thinking, the first thought I had was, it's so whacked out. The first thought I had was, I wonder if she needs help with her move. Can I like help her like get there? Why the
I
heck
hope
would
that
I
you
pay?
of all people would have that thought.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I was willing to like actually like pay some money. Like, hope I don't know if she's listening right now. I mean, don't tell her this, but I mean, I was actually thinking about like helping her pay for like some of her move costs.
Financially, that's what you mean.
Helping her, yeah,
Yes,
not just like
yes.
giving her some good advice. Not like these lump summers who are just like, hey, I've got a list of vetted partners for you. No, but like actually giving her a few $1,000s to get there, because I just wanted to make sure. Frankly, I wanted to make sure she actually like signed up with us full time and stayed with us, because that's how much I respect and value her. And I don't know if other people are thinking like that or not.
Okay,
What are you seeing?
I'm just going to stop you. So the competition for talent is crazier than it has ever been. And again, I don't work in HR. I just happen to talk to them every single day. And what I'm hearing them say, and the calls that I'm receiving, Ben, are, Dallas is a great example. I had a company in Dallas call and say, We've been in business for 60 years. We've always been able to hire locally. Suddenly we can't. If we could hire more people, every product we make, and this company was in the furniture business, and I'll just leave it at that. Every single piece of furniture that we would make, we could sell immediately. That's due to logistics with China.
Right. They're like 4 to 6 months back, probably.
But we can't hire people, Gary.
Wow.
We are just so now, for the first time in the history of our company, we're asking, what do relocation benefits look like? Educate us, teach us. And inevitably, the lump sum question comes up, which leads me to, again, my role of trying to educate people on just, let me help explain what a rogue mover is.
Oh, geez.
And I'm going to love to throw stats at
All right,
you
before
here
you
again.
explain a rogue mover, I saw an economist today talk about Dallas, and I just want to toot Dallas's horn for 1 second. They created 256,000 jobs in Dallas with Dallas-Fort Worth, which is more than the next 4 metros combined in the last couple of years, including like Houston, including like Phoenix, including all the ones that are showing growth right now. The job market is so hot right now in Dallas. And for the first time, I had the thought that I was like, wow, this might actually increase relocation. Forget all this like work from home is going to kill, remote work is going to kill relocation. I'm like, you're going to need to reload these folks because the demand is far outstripping the supply here in Texas. So yeah, so now to your point, now they're talking about, okay, we need a little relocation benefit, but we don't want to give a lot. We want to dip our toe into this relo thing. We're not full on jumping in the deep into the swimming pool. So let's try our hand at a little lump sum assistance, a little signing bonus, if you will. Gary, what happens?
HR manager called me Monday of this week from Pittsburgh. Maybe it was Stacy was just on from Pittsburgh, right?
It was one of Stacy's clients called you on
Monday?
Was not.
Just I'm just saying it's in her city.
I'm just kidding.
And he says, so we want to create a relocation program. And the reason why I'm not doing lump sums, and this is the director of HR, is that I personally was the victim of a fraudulent mover. And I went, tell me more. And he then went on to share how with a previous employer, they had given him just cash. And I mean, Ben, you know the story. In that instance, he was moving from Chicago to Florida, and he did exactly what you know. He went online, he found quotes, he hired I guess maybe we'd call them a broker, if you will.
Internet broker,
it was the textbook scam. They came and collected their goods, and then number one, they were 3 days late for pickup. So there's red flag number one.
You would think that would be a red flag.
Red flag number one.
You know what happens when a corporate mover's 2 hours late for a pickup?
They were 3 days late for pickup. Okay. They had promised delivery in 2 weeks. A month later, he doesn't have his stuff. And then he gets the call. You had way more stuff than you told us. And if you want us to come and deliver, we're going to need another $3,000 in cash.
Classic rogues.
To which he then went and Googled and found out, what the scam was and all the complaints against the company and the whole 9 yards. But guess what he did? He paid him the $3,000, and they came and delivered all of his stuff because he just wanted to get his stuff back and go on with his life. But thankfully, and I bring this story up to say most of the times that's not the case. This was just happened to happen this week. And I was thinking to myself, here we have someone in HR who, only because he's experienced it himself, is calling me to talk about professional relocation management.
I love this story. I want to talk about this. I want to double click into this right now. People that are watching right now, please hit that like button if you think that people need to understand what can happen when you go on the internet and try to manage your own move. Please hit that like button. We're going to talk about this for a minute because this is the flip side of lump sum programs, which are going to be, I think, continuing in prevalence as we look at some of these self-directed relocations, right? As we get more of these corporate folks doing consumer moves, long distance. Please hit that like button. I want you to get in the comments right now. I want you to tell me if you've had any experiences or if you've seen anything pertaining to this. Gary, with your example just now, did that person you're talking about, did they feel at the time they were getting a good deal when they booked it? Did they feel like, hey, I got I got a pretty good deal on this. Was it a below market bid? Was it a low ball?
Well, the answer is yes. I mean,
Yeah.
He and his wife were clearly looking just to get moved in a I guess I'd say a cost-effective way, and they had to learn the hard way that. And this is not a dig on the moving industry. I love the moving industry. Okay, I've worked for 2 different van lines, but in that business, it is very much buyer beware. There's a reason why the Better Business Bureau did a 10-year study on moving fraud and released that data in 2020. There's a reason why complaints to the FMCSA year to year are up. You want to guess how much?
Year to year over what year?
2020 to 2021 complaints to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Complaints are up by how much?
25%.
91%.
What?
Year to year complaints. I'll send you the article when we're done. It just came out last week. Are up 91%. So
all right, can I recklessly speculate on why that is?
Sure.
With absolutely no data.
It's your show.
Yeah. Anybody that watches this knows this is what you come for, guys. Okay. You don't come for data. You want data, go log into one of Gary Conerly's webinars.
Sorry.
Okay. You want reckless speculation, you're in the right place, people. Okay. It's free of charge. You got a front row seat. I think part of it is due to the fact that there was a massive labor shortage in 2021 due to COVID.
Okay.
There were a ton of self-directed relocations because people were working from wherever they wanted to work, and they cashed out a lot of money on their house, and they said, you know what, I'm moving from New York City to the hills of Tennessee.
I'm going to Denver. I'm going to Panama City.
I'm bringing the kids. We're going to live next to the grandparents, whatever, right?
Right.
And so they were out on the internet, on the interwebs, with a pocket full of cash, and there was nobody out there to move them. And they took the first mover that gave them a
You're saying they took what they could get. Okay.
They took what they could get, and there was in there. I estimate, just from a back of the napkin study I did in 2019, that a third to half of all movers you see on the front page of Google for long distance moves are internet brokers or lead aggregators. They use internet brokers to some extent. So when you're looking at like half, like you got a 50-50 shot. And if you're a price driven customer, you've got less than a 50-50 shot of getting bamboozled. So I think that's where the bamboozlement came from, personally. What do other people think? We got people tuning in here. Look at Vinny Valverde. Hope all is well, Gary.
Vinny, I hope your back is better, my friend. I heard you had some little back trouble this week. Yeah.
Want me to rub it? Yeah. Vin, look at that. I'm a distant second. Look at that. Love you, Vinny. Hope you're well. Dave Nelson. So our BBB A+ rating matters.
Yes, it does, Dave. Yes, it does. All right, let's stop there for a minute, because Dave makes me think of another thought. Let me. People are going to think that we planned this and we didn't, but let me commend you for.
We did no planning. I want y'all to know
absolutely no planning. We were both late to the call.
Full disclosure.
Earlier this week, you had a call. What was it called? From the curb, at the curb, something.
View from the curb. Little dig across the pond. Go ahead.
I'm gonna really want to give you praise for some of the conversations that you were having during that. I think that more conversations around professional moving and pricing for moving need to be had, and our industry should not be afraid to have those conversations. I had a company in the Northeast reach out to me 3 weeks ago asking for my advice on an RFP specific to household goods. And that made me think, how would I do an RFP for a company that does 150 domestic moves a year? Are tariffs still a thing, Ben? You tell me.
Tariffs are a thing, and they're supposed to be published, but they are no longer standard, like 400N.
Really?
400N-ish, but they're not 400N. They've diverged quite a bit now. Various van lines have put a lot of kind of surcharges hidden underneath in the small shipment things to kind of account for APUs and local agent pickups and G11s or whatever you want to call them. So they've diverged. And they're supposed to be posted in the office and publicly available, but that's kind of a joke. I remember I published a tariff and I literally tacked it to the wall in my office in my cubicle, and that was it. So
you met the requirement.
I met the requirement. Yeah. The problem with a lot of stuff is it's actually legal. It's just like, so kind of like there's so many loopholes around it that
So where I'm going is if the tariffs are 400 in-ish, then how could I or anyone do a true kind of side-by-side comparison on pricing?
It used to be that everybody was on the same tariff and you could choose based on the quality of the mover. And now people like, and so what'll happen is, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I'm just going to go off here. What happens now is these internet brokers are pricing it per cubic foot, whereas any mover worth his weight will price it based on weight, right? So you get a per pound, you get like a 100 weight price, or
I
based
would
on
hope so.
Oh, you have 14,500 pounds. We're gonna charge you X for that amount of weight.
And you're going 859 miles.
Yes,
right?
and you can use a verifiable,
right?
And you can use a verifiable CAT scale with a weighmaster who signs it to verify and validate.
Weight tickets, baby.
And if you think the weight is off, you can reweigh at destination.
Demand the reweigh.
And you can witness the reweigh and show up to the Flying J truck stop and do all that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff built in there. But what happened was we deregulated the moving industry. And, movers may or may not understand this, but we would be a lot better off if it was more regulated. Well, regulations actually protect the people who are doing their job the right way. I'm
going to come to my point, and it's for the benefit of the audience. I didn't have a good answer, and I've been in this business for 19 years. And I called two friends of mine who have each spent 25 plus years for major van lines. I asked them the question. They didn't have a good answer. And getting back to the corporation in the end went, well, I guess we'll just do 2 surveys for every move. So thank you for hanging your head, because that's exactly what I hope Dave Nelson and every other mover out there is doing right now.
Please.
That's their reaction.
Oh gosh. Let's get to these comments. These comments are gold. Let's get to these comments here. Fred wants to know, what was the question here, Gary? Run that question back one more time. We got some real pros here. What was the question that you've been asked?
The question, Fred, was if tariffs are not apple and apple, how can a corporation who does 200 domestic moves a year do a fair comparison in rates between competing colors of trucks or competing brands of van lines?
How should a consumer compare their estimates?
Or even just asking for quotes on rates, if what you told me a moment ago, there is no standardized tariff.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and this is to Dave's question. Here's another question for the audience. How should consumers compare the quality of service? So let's assume that they feel like they understand the pricing for one moment.
Which I haven't heard you answer that yet. And I'm back to my answer. The answer I got was every move is going to get surveyed twice.
I'd convert everything to weight, and I would only use weight-based estimates, and I would convert everything to weight, and I would ask everybody to take the average of the 3, and then I would ask everybody to rate it off of that average, and then also tell me what would happen if it went 20% higher, and then I would kind of look at that as my worst case scenario. Dave's also saying, so our BBB A+ rating matters.
Yeah.
You know what, Dave? Honestly, I don't know. Because I've worked for some different moving companies, and they all had A+ BBB ratings, and they weren't that good. And from my experience, and I've talked to the BBB, if you hound the BBB and you reply to every complaint, then your rating will be pretty much an A rating. It doesn't really, they don't have empirical data other than people complained. Did you respond or not? If you responded and you showed up for that response and you satisfactorily responded, then they'll maintain a solid rating. So I don't even know that BBB is necessarily as applicable. Then there's Yelp out there, which I actually think is a little more empirical, even though I hate Yelp with a passion. And we could talk about why Yelp is skewed. I'd love to hear what people think. Steve Smith, absolutely. Same experiences shared in remorse, but not by our lump sum program options. They went out on their own without any of our direction, and why we have options. but it's their decision to use our options
or
and
not. I
not
love that.
do
I agree.
what they did.
So I
Yes.
guess maybe Steve's bringing us back on target. So what I love about what Steve said is, at least for an employee who says, I want to move, will the company employ me 6 states away? And the company says yes. My position is that the company does have a duty of care to at least provide information and education to that employee to try and prevent the nightmare from happening. And we've talked about moving, so I feel like we beat that a little bit. I'm gonna pivot on you. Right now I'm seeing people who are, let's say they're leaving California and they're coming we'll keep using Denver as an example. And they are looking for a place to rent. How easy is it to find rental units in major cities? The answer is it's not. So real estate, finding a house to buy, maybe the most difficult I've seen in 20 years. Finding a rental unit, incredibly difficult. So what are some employees doing? They're going online, Ben. And so what is the scam that is occurring? They might end up, and this is a true story.
Oh, I know the scam. I know the scam.
You know the scam? All right.
I think I know the scam.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Is it duplicate? What is duplicate listings for 1,000?
So no, that's not the story I'm going to tell. The story
That's the scam
I
run, but let me tell you your scam. 2 thumbs down. Tim's giving me 2 thumbs down backstage. Go ahead, Gary.
The scam is that I don't even own a house in Denver, but I'm going to steal a couple of images of a home off of Zillow. And then I'm going to go on Craigslist and I'm going to represent as if I own that home. And I'm going to shop that I'm looking to rent it for a year. And I'm going to have someone who comes along and sees the property and thinks it's great and emails my Gmail that I made 5 minutes ago and says they're interested. And I'm going to reply and say, I'm on vacation. I'd love to rent it to you. But I'm getting lots of offers, lots of interest. So if you'd like to hold it, I need a deposit. So if you'll just, go ahead and Venmo me 800 right now or pay whatever, right?
First month's rent.
Then I'll hold it for you. And when I ask, well, then what happens when the employee shows up? Well, they say, well, I'll meet you at the house with a key. So literally people are showing up in a city and going up to a home thinking they're going to live in it, knocking on the door and having someone open the door and say, who are you? Why are you here? This is my home. It is not for rent.
Yeah. So that's what I was referring to with duplicate listings. People can duplicate your listing and basically charge people for it. And because people are doing such crazy things with like waiving the tour and waiving the viewing and waiving the inspections and we're waiving everything.
We're waiving everything.
We're like saying goodbye. We're waiving everything, and I think it's just like it's crazy because we're waiving all our recourse too, and it's true with moving, it's true with real estate. So interesting. It's so prevalent. It's crazy out here. And I think we all need to stop for a second and realize like these protocols are in place for a reason.
Correct.
These protocols exist after 2 centuries of real estate doings, right? Like there's no reason to just throw out the window all the conventional wisdom that's been built up for 2 centuries. This is when I'm like getting on my old man, get off my lawn, right? This is like, there's a reason these things are in play, and then we throw them out. And then guess what? 5 years from now, we're going to be like passing legislation to reinstate all the things that we decided we didn't have a use for anymore. It's crazy to me. We've got comments coming in here, Gary. I know you want to get on other things, but we got people who are loving the moving stuff right here. Sean Luchin saying, and when that happens, you think they will use their personal time or company time to resolve this, rogue moving situation? I believe there's a lot of hidden costs to companies on lump sums, but maybe that is just me.
So no, you're not wrong, Sean. It's not just you. It will absolutely consume their time, time that should have been spent thinking about their new job responsibilities, and onboarding with, assuming it's a new employer with a company. Instead, they're dealing with a mess. And when it happens, Sean, who do you think they go to asking for help? Who do they go to, Ben?
I get calls every summer. I'm fortunate I don't sit in a moving company anymore. I'd get calls twice a summer saying, I got a customer, I got a transferee. They're with one of my biggest clients. They decided to go do it themselves because they didn't get the date they wanted. They didn't like the price because now they got to pay the taxes on it. So they see the invoices and they went out to the internet and the interwebs and they said, well, I got this. Can I do it? Mr. HR contact. Okay, fine, Joe, go do it. And then now Joe stuff's like halfway between Kansas City and Kathmandu, and he didn't know where it is. And the train thinks the truck was orange. So maybe it was one of my sister van lines. Can you track it? Get out of here, man. I got 3 shipments on the curb right now. I can't get picked up. Okay, the people are paying me full freight for. I can't go track your rogue shipment sitting in the storage locker somewhere at a junkyard and Tupelo. Get out of here with that. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that happened.
So Sean, they're going to call HR. Eventually, it's going to land back on the desk of an HR manager or director of HR, and it's going to be I've made a mistake. I'm in some trouble. I don't even have an air mattress. Can the company help me? And I share that because companies view lump sums as a way to contain their cost. But if they aren't educated on this topic, and if they aren't at least educating their employees, even when it's a self-generated relocation, the company's not paying a dime. It usually comes back. They usually go back to HR begging for help.
Well, and then and that's where I'm saying HR then comes to me and try to track it down. But that's in the meantime when they're in, they're issuing per diems and whatnot, or trying to figure it out, because they still want the person
more money.
Yeah, they still want the person to start on the right foot.
Correct. Onboarding is part of relocation, in my opinion, is part of the onboarding process. And so now, how is that employee's first impression of the company if this is what has occurred?
Well, yeah. Steve Smith's asking for that. He wants you to share that report with the 91% uptick in FMCSA complaints. We're always looking for ammunition in Relo. I mean, I think this is where we have to come together. Despite competitive differences, we all are on the same side of the table on this issue, right? When we all are in the business of substantiating the value of managed relocation, right? And so if we have data and reports that we can share with one another, whether it be the increase in FMCSA complaints, Better Business Bureau complaints, stories and white papers about lump sum stuff. I mean, this stuff is happening. It's happening quite a bit. I think it's happening more than we realize because a lot of people don't like to admit that they got scammed. They just keep it moving. I mean, but this stuff happens a lot. Let me see here. We got people. Let's see here. People checking in.
Steve, I'll post that on LinkedIn when we get off. I'll make a post on LinkedIn and I'll link to that article. So just look for my name on LinkedIn and you'll find it when we get off.
Yeah, tag me, tag Steve, tag all of us here. Fred Metzler. Each carrier has just named something else and they omitted some of the extras. Yeah, they omitted all the extra weight. Well, what happens, just so all y'all know, and listen, we're human beings, and these people are taking advantage of human nature and loopholes in the rules. And I want to be clear about something. While this is unethical, it's oftentimes not quite illegal. And here's how it goes. Here's the scam. You call internet broker ABC Mover. And they say, okay, well, yeah, I'd love to help you move from Tupelo to Tennessee. How much stuff you got? Not much, right? What do we all say? Not much. We're negotiating. Not much, just a little something here and there. Just, a couple nightstands and a bed. Oh, you live in a 3-bedroom home with 2 nightstands and a bed. Okay, sure, Mr. Conerly. Sounds good to me. Well, your price is going to be, $1,000. Pick you up in Tupelo and move you to Tennessee. And oh, by the way, I got a truck in your neighborhood in 2 months, and I'll go ahead and knock $200 off of it if you lock that in now with the $800 down payment.
Thank you.
And you're like, hey, honey, this is great. I really got this guy. I got this guy down to 800. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why you got that quote for $8,000 from Atlas. It's only going to be $800. That's why I do all the shopping around here. And then he plunks down his MasterCard. They bang it for $800, and then so what happens is they come and they show up and say, gosh, golly, Mr. Conerly, you got a lot more than just 2 nightstands and a queen size. Gosh, we might even need another truck. They load it all up. They take it to Tennessee. And when they get there, they say, listen, we're not unloading anything until you pay me for the actual space used on these trucks. You told me you had 50 cubic feet and you've got, 500 cubic feet. So now $1,000 turns into $10,000, right? And until you pay me the over, but it's because you underrepresented what you had as a consumer. They allowed you to underrepresent what you had. They lowballed you, right?
They
So in
also
a
know what
way,
will happen if you call the police. If you call the police, which happens, and the police show up, at the house for the, delivery, the police will deem it to be a civil matter, not a criminal matter. And if you do something like trying to block in the truck, you could be charged.
yeah, because they'll point to
They'll point to you signed.
the
Exactly.
survey, the
You
estimate that you
signed.
signed, and
That's
that
right.
estimate says a couple things. It says you waived your right to an in-home survey. It says that you were stating that you had this much stuff. It's stating that any stuff over that much stuff is going to be X dollars, and you signed all that.
And you signed it. Right. Right. So we're way off on a tangent here, but suffice it to say that it is buyer beware in moving, and that companies should have a relationship with a reputable moving company or a reputable relocation management company. And the amount that they would spend in just move management services will pay dividends in eliminating these headaches. If you have any questions, give me a call. I just, I can't say, okay, so, I don't want to turn this into anything about home services, but we feel so strongly about this that we created our own program then to try and combat, and we're not a moving company. We generate no revenue in moving the moving business. But we're trying to educate consumers and created a website and a program just to get out there that there are certain red flags when it comes to a move. We list them on the site. Guess what number one is? They didn't do a survey,
An
either an
in-home
in-person,
estimate. Yep.
either in home, or there are some fantastic virtual tools which have come up due to COVID, right? We didn't want people in our house, so now we can walk around with our little camera phone, and we can open the closets, and we can at least get kind of close.
Yep.
If they know what they're doing as to how much, I'll just think in terms of weight, how much weight
Yep.
you might have, right? If they don't do that, then red flag number one. Number two, that I think it was Fred that said it, if they ask you for money up front. Red flag number two. A deposit, thank you. So those two, and there are a couple of others, right? Like, do they have a warehouse in your city? Do they show up with a rented truck, right? Are they wearing uniforms? You talked about all that earlier this week. Are they actually wearing the same shirts, right?
Well, and they don't actually have to do an in-home survey if they're more than 50 miles away. But if they're more than 50 miles away and they're bidding on your move, you should ask yourself why. How do they plan to service it? Why would they buy that lead? So that's a good question. But if they're not, a lot of what you're going to see with these internet brokers also is you're going to see that they're based in Florida, they're based in New York City, or they're based in like Chicago.
Well, I'm
you're
hearing
in, like,
that they're
Muncie,
based
Indiana.
somewhere until they feel the heat, and then they pull up stakes, and they're in another state. And once they've changed states, they can change the name. They put stakes down again. They're doing it again. That's why it's so hard. It's like whack-a-mole. You knock them down in Ohio, and they pop up in Florida, right?
Well, what it is though too is there's these communities, right? There's these communities of people that know the scam, and so they kind of cluster. So that's why you see a lot in Fort Lauderdale, for instance, right? So like, well, they'll work for the scammer, and then when they get the scam down, then they go and they do their own thing, and now they become a new scammer, So that's why you see these clusters, especially in Fort Lauderdale, and they'll take, instead of United Van Lines will be called Unified Van Lines,
Absolutely.
right? And they'll have a very similar looking spoofed image,
Right. So back on to kind of think what our topic was. Not that it's great to get off on tangents, my friend, but I think a company has a responsibility to at least provide some education to an employee who says, I want to keep working for you, but I want to work from somewhere else. If they're not doing that, then they run the risk of these kind of problems coming back home to roost, right? If you will. So those are my recommendations. All companies operate under a budget. You don't have a budget for an employee who wants to move themselves. I totally get that. But at least you can go to any of the major van lines or any of the reputable relocation companies and get a list of red flags for moving, for real estate, for rental units. At least give that to an employee so that they don't call you back in 6 weeks And now they're standing on a curb thinking they were going to rent some house and they're not, or they're waiting for a truck to show up and it's not, right?
All right, so I'm gonna, we got a comment from Sean here, and then I got a question. Sean says, "Why I believe, among other reasons, companies should own this process, then take and communicate this value to the employee as part of their rewards offering." Yeah, I mean, I agree, Sean. Right? I mean, because we live and breathe this stuff. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate here a little bit. Um, I've heard a very compelling case made by corporate HR folks, as
Mm-hmm.
well as general legal counsels at RMCs, even,
Mm-hmm.
that there is no duty of care requirement on lump sum relocations, because the amount of, they give them the cash
Yep.
and that employee makes their own decisions. So from a legal standpoint, what I've heard is there's no liability on the company's part. Do you believe that to be true? What are your thoughts on that, Gary?
Well, okay, so I'm not an attorney,
Dang.
and I haven't spent 20 years in HR. I've spent 20 years in relo, but I do agree. I think one of the reasons why we saw the pendulum swing towards lump sums is corporations viewed it as being easy. They don't want to manage this, get this off my desk, throw cash, especially when it became taxable in January 2018, right? When moving suddenly became taxable, and there was no longer a benefit to having the company pay for it. Why not just give them $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, right? But now we're seeing the result of, I think lump sum was one of the contributing factors to a 91% increase year to year from 2020 to 2021 in complaints about interstate moving. I agree with everything you said, okay? But the growth of lump sums, I think, is another contributing factor to that. And we are all hearing the horror stories. So does a company legally have an obligation? No. But do they legally have an obligation to give us health care?
If they're over a certain amount of employees, I think they are. I think they do.
Okay. You get my point. I
I
mean, do
think with
they,
the Affordable Care Act, yeah.
do they legally have to, when we get into like
I hear you.
employment law,
I hear you.
right?
Are benefits required, or are they best practice for various reasons? Like,
You're trying to
i.e.,
compete for talent, right? You're
an
trying to,
employment brand. Are you going to be able to put together a package that's desirable and gets the best and brightest? I think that's a good. The problem. Let's be honest. The problem with that logic, though, is it's squishy and it's not hard and fast. It's not black or white.
Mhm.
It's qualitative, right? It's like, well, how it's nice. It's on a spectrum of nice to have and how attractive and is your package as an employer, right?
Well, again, and now I'll come back to realize where we are, where it's not recruitment anymore. Well, okay, so it's retention, but also recruitment. Companies that have never needed relocation are suddenly needing relocation advice and help. Companies are competing for talent. They're competing for people with a certain skill set in whatever that industry might be. And if you want to be competitive, what I'm saying to you is I'm getting more inbound phone calls of companies calling me than I have in the 19 years that I've worked in this business. And the
Yeah.
reason for that is that they are seeing, I just had a major healthcare company call me and say, we are going away from lump sums because we are now having senior administrative positions. We're having people turn us down, and we're realizing that lump sums aren't enough.
So this brings up a great point, Gary. And real quick, I'm going to honor Patricia here. Totally true. Duty of care is strong when corporates follow the move, are responsible for the services offered. When lump sum is used, most of the companies don't share how to spend the money, and employees can even overspend with no orientation. Aaron saying it's like the fake violinist part. Are those violinists fake? I just thought some girl was trying to make a little extra money for violin lessons on the. All right, well that's a new one by me. See, Aaron, see, look at that. So Gary, I don't know if you know this, but I have a talent recruitment agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going great. Thanks for asking. And I'm thinking now as a relocation professional, I'm like, I feel like we've had it all wrong for a while. Not all wrong, but you know what I mean. I feel like we should be designing relocation benefits and policies from like a talent sales standpoint. Like we write these policies up and they're like on a, benchmarking on a white paper, or a policy that's like in a Word doc that's supposed to go into an offer letter, or not the offer letter, like into like a manual, or like consult the benefits guide or something like that. But it's almost like, what if we were writing them, and just bear with me here because I'm feeling kind of crazy. What if we wrote them up like a sales slick, like a flyer almost, like the kind of thing that you'd stand at a job fair or something, and pass out in order to get people excited about the company, right? And it's like, we offer, medical, dental, 401k, flexible leave time, and 6 months, paternity leave, I mean, I see this on like a slick, like a high graph, very, very nice looking thing. I feel like we need to make our relo benefits and our relo programs and our even our rotational assignment programs and all the strategic things we do to develop talent in the once they're in the organization. Like we need to almost like create these like sales flyers and start pitching these to talent and saying, hey, internal recruiters, you guys are, out there trying to find the best and brightest. You're getting your tail kicked by external recruiters who are more aggressive. Here's something you can use to go to market and win candidates. And then once they use it to sell them, to get them in the door, well, of course, now they're going to have to actually service and support that using someone like yourself, Gary.
Right.
How crazy am I? Scale of 1 to 10.
Well, you're not crazy. And companies who are recognizing that we need that, well, number one, many of them are already there, right? So we all know that your big name brands, they all have well-established domestic relocation programs and international assignment programs, right? And those are always evolving. So, every year you're looking at that to see like, what exceptions did we make and what edits do we have to make? How is the market reacting? But what you're saying is happening when I tell you that companies are calling me, asking for my help. My struggle in sales in this industry for 19 years has been trying to get HR's attention. And now suddenly my phone's ringing off the hook. My emails popping up every day. I have companies from all over the United States who are saying, I need your help. So do you see kind of, and the reason why they're doing it is because they're now in the boat of what's happening. We can't hire people. People are leaving.
Yeah.
And when we go and ask why, why did you turn down the offer? Well, you only offered me an $8,000 lump sum. Well, in 2017, that was enough. For 2018, that was enough. And now suddenly 2022, it's not. Right?
Yeah. You know what else too, Gary? For the last 2 years, we've been hiring everybody remote. So when the big return to office comes, relocation is going to burst because there's going to be a big coming home. I think
the pent-up demand is as concerning to me as it is, I think, everybody else who works in this business and is listening, because I'm hearing that some of the van lines are possibly even scaling back capacity for this summer.
This will be interesting. Yes, this will be interesting. I've heard some of that too. We've got some of these amazing comments coming in. Fred saying, "You mean companies don't do this, Ben? They don't use Relo benefits as a sales tool?" Fred, I'm sure you're being ironic. Fred, fresh out of Toadsuck, Arkansas. I know you're playing with me, Fred, but no, they don't. This is why Relos look so much like a cost center when it needs to be looked at like a. I mean, gosh, companies pay a lot of money in recruiting fees. I mean, literally, what companies are paying firms like mine to do recruiting?
15 grand, 20 grand
more.
Okay.
I mean, those are relocation benefits, right? I mean, listen, don't not use your external recruiters. But I mean, we're talking about kind of like, hey, you're going to spend it either way, right? John Zilka, favorite comment of the day. John Zilka, lump sums grew in usage because large RMCs didn't have the guts to sell against it. They waved a white flag to get the sale. Preach, John Zilka. Say it louder for the people in the back. John is 100% correct. I'm going to tell you why. Oh, we got 2,000 moves. 1,000 are managed. 1,000 are lump sum. Want the business? Hell yeah, I want the business.
Of course I want the business, right?
Twice on Tuesday. Yeah, I want the business.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I got these 999 lump summers, and I got this 500-person internship program, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we'll throw up a portal to support it. And yeah, they're going to end up on the internet with the move brokers, and we don't care because we're making money.
Depends on which RMC. All right. A lot of RMCs have gotten very inventive in supporting interns and in supporting lump sums. So there has been a lot of progress made, and I'm not going to talk about ours, but just in the business, right? So a lot of RMCs have gotten much better at how do we help somebody who just received a lump sum. So there has been some progress in that.
More
space.
sophisticated,
but he's not wrong.
More sophisticated than like affinity programs and like. I mean, how much more sophisticated are we really getting? Like, until you tell me it's a managed budget, I'm telling you it's hogwash.
No, it's not a managed cap, which is very different than a lump sum. But things like a utility disconnect and connect service, helping people at least find reputable apartments, possibly finding ways to provide some kind of a rebate if they sell a home or buy a home, which yes is an affinity program. Introductions. I
like the rebate one. I like the rebate one because it's 4 figures. I like the rebate one. It's 4 figure. It hits my pocket as a 4 figure benefit. The rebate one's cool. And shout out to Stephen John who's trying to give me a rebate on the purchase of my home. He's trying to sell me something yesterday. I love you, Stephen. But no, I mean, I think until it's a managed. All right, you know what, Gary? Debate this with me. True or false? Until it's a managed cap, it's still trash.
A lump.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I disagree with you.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
I disagree with you. We all. I mean, I was right out of college, graduated from college in Jackson, Mississippi, and that very next day.
Where in Jackson?
I went to Mississippi College, which is in Clinton, just outside of Jackson. But
my grandfather was a Millsap man.
Well, the first week out of school, I moved to King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia.
Philly, yeah.
First week, and you know what I did? I rented a U-Haul, loaded it myself. I had a Toyota Camry. I put it up on a rack, and I drove myself to Philly. And a lump is all I needed to do that, my friend. That's all I needed to do.
You lucky you didn't get a little trailer sway going with that U-Haul trailer. That thing would flip that Camry over, man. You'd be in a ditch somewhere, and we'd be talking about what a great guy Gary Conerly
my used Toyota Camry. It was white with gold trim.
That was my Chrysler Cirrus too. That's how I moved to Texas, man. The white and gold trim, man.
White with gold trim. Toyota Camry, used.
Yeah.
Towed it to Philly. But a lump helped me accomplish that, and I went to work for a large company outside of Philly. Fast forward 10 years. And I own a home. I'm married. I've got a bunch of household goods, and a company's offering to relocate me. Well, hang on a minute. Now we're talking. If you want me to move, now maybe a managed cap might be the right approach.
What if somebody threw you like? What if somebody's like, "Hey, Gary, how about a $50,000 lump sum?"
Completely taxable,
it's
right?
It's a lot of money.
So what's my net there? My net there is
35.
No, come on, federal, state, and FICA.
Well,
Federal, state, and FICA.
Well, you might be at a different tax bracket than the rest of those, Gary. But
no. You don't understand.
35%. No,
you're not including the tax on tax effect.
Stacy's saying tax on tax. You got to gross up the gross up.
You got to gross up the gross up, my friend.
Stacy's nodding. Stacy, what's the figure back there, Stacy? Stacy has a
Stacy.
She's saying, "Whoa, say it again. Say it again, Stacy. 60, 62."
I think she's high. I'd do 53. It depends on the state.
62%, Stacy, of what? Of the tax?
Of the 50. If you said I got a $50,000 lump sum.
You're saying I receive 62%. I keep 62% of the 50.
Oh, so
no,
she's
I pay.
Doing...
Stacy, this is your moment, Stacy. This is when we need you, Stace. Stacy's like, I'm gonna log off this program before bed.
There's my net.
26. Stacy's saying 20. Okay, so Gary's shut the front door. 26.5 is all you're keeping on a $50,000 lump sum.
Yes.
Holy smokes. Stacy likes it.
You learned
26.5, half. You're keeping half.
Yes.
So if I said, hey, Gary, how about 50 grand?
And Ben, if I move to California, I'm keeping way less than half because I'm paying more state tax there. So it depends on the state you're moving to. If I'm moving to Florida, I keep more because there's no state tax. We are really off in the weeds here now.
I don't care, Gary. I want to be. I love the weeds. I love it, Gary. This is where the rubber meets the road, in the weeds. Okay, because this is super interesting. Now I want to see. You know what? Comment number 2 from John Zilka. RMC portals will never beat an internet search for business. Never.
Okay, John.
Fired.
Okay, John.
Shots fired.
Yeah, you go Google moving companies.
John, Google moving companies. John, Google moving companies.
Go to Reddit
including ads, including the ad listings at the top. I want to know, out of every listing on the front page of Google for long distance movers, I want you to Google long distance movers.
How many brokers?
And I want to know how many look like brokers or lead aggregators of the long distance movers on the front page. And you can't count 2 minute truck because they only do locals. So take out the local movers and tell me how many are advertising long distance moving who do not look like brokers or lead aggregators. John Zilka, that is your homework right now. John, report back. I need to know. Fred Metzler saying 30K on 50K. Fred's got a good tax man. Fred's saying companies should have given talent options, lump sum, manager cap, and full service. Okay.
Fred, they do. They do give their, I mean, that is your range there. So you have intern program, a lump sum program, a managed cap program, and then you can have various types of what I would say like a full renter, home marketing assistance, buyer value option, guaranteed buyout, full executive relocation package.
I think from now on, the movers should write benefit program policies.
We're going to be in trouble.
Carol says, visit HomeServiceRelocation.com/ the implications of work from anywhere on relocation benefits to get a copy of Gary's white paper on this topic. Thank you, Carol. Carol's awesome.
Thank you, Carol.
Spectacular marketing professional. Tom Brune, relocation provisions are a benefit, not an entitlement. Several people on this call will agree that it's a mystery as to why relocation benefits aren't administered in a fashion that's more aligned with the way that medical benefits are administered. Yes.
Let me just say something to Tom. So I got a call from a director of HR yesterday, and the good news was that we had won their business, but I'll just kind of end that there. But she went on to say that the delay in letting us know that we'd won their business was she had to make the case to finance. She had to go and get finance to sign off on paying for it. And she was expressing the struggle she had and internally trying to sell finance on. And this is like a, fairly large company that had never had a program, trying to convince that their company should spend money in this and explaining to a CFO that these dollars should be spent on relocation.
Let me ask you this, Gary, in all your years of doing relocation, how often are finance people relocated?
I'd say, I mean, where are you going? I mean, it depends on the industry.
I'd say very rarely. Very rarely. I see a lot of people who run facilities who have P&L responsibilities. I see a lot of
I see what you're asking.
Individual contributors. I see store managers. I see new hires.
So the point you're making is they haven't felt the pain themselves.
I don't see Fred. Ding, ding, ding. Fred Metzler. Okay. Not often. Okay. You don't relocate bean counters. You don't relocate bean counters.
Where's Stephen John when I need him?
Sorry, Stephen. I love you. I know you keep that CPA, but you know what? Stephen's a strategic leader, though.
I'm not going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree.
Just because he knows how to count beans doesn't mean he's a bean counter. Gary. I mean, he he's worked at some places. He lived in Chicago. We talked about this. I mean, Stephen's like a leader, but I mean, you don't normally relocate a lot of. I mean, tell me. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I moved one CFO in 20 years. Fred says. Well, there you go. That's empirical data right there. Ask a mover. He's got the paperwork to prove it. He's actually been taking the data this whole time, and he could tell you how many sticks of furniture they had too. I bet.
But I think the point you're making is it's almost as if people have to experience this to see how bad it can be, right?
Yes,
how bad it can be,
and you know what? Experience to see how good it can be too, because
listen.
I'll say this. Two jobs ago, right? I was so fired up to go work there because I got this amazing edible arrangement sent to my home. I wasn't home. I was at work. I had to move it to the office actually for me. All my coworkers ate all my edible arrangements, like chocolate covered pineapples, etc.
Your edible what?
They were all They're on my edible arrangement.
Your edibles? All right, go
My
ahead.
edible, yeah, they all ate my edibles. We had a heck of a time. No, and they were like jealous because they're like, "Oh, where are you going? Take me with you." They're sending you chocolate covered pineapples, right? That was my first impression. I go up there for the interview, right? And also they're giving me a bottle of wine in the room, a handwritten card. I mean, all these things get people excited to go to workplaces. And until you felt how great relocation benefits can be when they're administered correctly, and until you felt how bad they can be when they're administered incorrectly, you really don't have a leg to stand on in the argument, in my opinion, humbly.
I won't disagree with you, and I know that we're running out of time. I want to follow up on something that came up
Gary's
on
got stuff to
Tuesday with
do.
Fred. No, I got
Go
something to
ahead.
say.
I'm sorry, Gary.
One of the guys on your From the Curb interview asked you if you'd ever been out, I think, on a pack and load. Remember that? And what was
Yes,
your
he
answer?
did. And
What was your answer?
I said I've moved amateurly 14 times, but I'd never been out on a move.
Okay. So, the more that I learn in this business and in life, the more I realize, Ben, how little I know. So Dave Nelson made a comment here a minute ago. I want to go to him and Todd and Todd's dad, Tom, and give them some kudos. My first job in this business was working for Armstrong Relocation. You know what they had me do my first week on the job?
Oh, let me guess. First week on the job, Armstrong
By the way,
Relocation.
I was in sales.
You were in sales.
I was in sales. So first week on the job,
pack job.
surveys.
So surveys.
They had not, I'm shadowing somebody, going out, walking through homes, cubing. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, cube sheet survey.
Cube
Yeah.
sheet
Well, you were a
surveys.
national account salesperson, because I was like, that's actually what a salesperson does. But you're a national account salesperson.
But they wanted me to have an understanding of what the grunt work was like, and that's the point I'm trying to make to you. They wanted me to have an understanding of what it means to do a cube sheet, of what it means to go and do a pack job, of what it means to do a delivery. And then I went to work for another van line, and ended up actually going and supervising some executive moves. So my point is, you don't know what you don't know until you've walked in some of their shoes. And I will advise you that every chance you can get, to go and do your best to kind of learn, like, what is it like to be a real estate relocation director? What's that job like at Eddie Halliday in Dallas? I can make an introduction.
Should I do like an undercover boss where I go and I do all the jobs in relocation, and I have a heart attack on a load one day, and I get a stent, I come back 6 weeks later, I'm selling houses, and then I'm practicing real estate without a license.
Do inspections, come back and do inspections.
There's radon in here.
Closing, go and do a closing. Go to work for a lender and try and convince people to come to you for loans. My point is,
manage 250 files in peak season as a relocation counselor.
There is so much to this industry, man. And even 19 years in, there's a lot that I don't know, but I agree with what he has said. And the point you're making is, do we move a lot of finance people? I've never thought about it that way, because I have a lot of clients that are in finance or insurance, right? So yes, they move a lot of people, but back on point, maybe that is a reason why HR had to go and argue with finance as to, are we going to spend the money on,
the finance guy is driving a 20-year-old Toyota Corolla to work. He's packing his bologna sandwich. He's managing his pennies.
He's got his
retired 62 and a half, whatever the number is, right? I mean, God bless him, but I mean, he's not looking at approving a $50,000 household goods shipment, Anyway, but no, I mean, hey, much respect to all the finance people out there that calculate our gross ups. Appreciate all the hard work out there, and tell us what a gallon of milk costs in Shanghai. Gary, I always have so much fun talking to you. I love your moving experience. I love the way you look at relocation. I love the way you share your conversations that you hear, from our corporate HR folks. I love our little digital road show through Indiana that we did with the Society.
Thank you again for that, for helping. I'll give you a plug. Ben and I spoke to Sherm about a month ago, and that was very well received. I'm hoping we get to do it again here pretty soon.
One day we'll be on the main stage at Big Sherm.
It's in New Orleans, and I'm working on it. So
are you still working, dude? I'm what is it, June 19th or something?
It's coming up, but I'm still working on it.
Hey, you know what? I'm a big man, but I move quick. I get in the back door. Don't even worry about it. We'll get on stage.
Bourbon Street. Come on.
As long as you got a chair for me, I'll be up on there with you.
All right,
Gary, you want to leave anybody? You want to leave the folks out there with a final thought, final word today?
I'll just say, you know, if you're having a tough time, hang in there, because we all go through some tough times. And, you know, this industry is one where one day you might be a little down. Hang on, because the next day, you know, my experience, it's going to swing back up and you're going to be smiling. The sun's going to be out again. So, you know, just in life, don't give up. You keep plugging away and good things will happen.
I love it. Amen, brother. Sounds good. Hey, thanks everybody for being here today with us. Hit that like button. We appreciate you so much. We wouldn't have a show without all of you in the audience. So my heart really goes out to you. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Gary Conerly, HomeServices Relocation. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it, Gary.
Thank you, Ben.